everybody. Joe Popp from the Popp Rock Shop Poppcast, along with my assistant engineer, Iggy. We're going to be talking today to the authors of Occupancy 250, Fans, Bands, and Fried Chicken, The Stories of Einstein A Go-Go. And we're lucky to have all four authors here today: Jennifer Curry Compton, Allison Durham, John Glass, and D. Edenfield Marling. Let's hear what they have to say.
Einstein A Go-Go, if you don't know, was a music venue at Jacksonville Beach from 1985 to 1997, and they catered to really amazing alternative bands, many that got very, very famous. And I'm not going to give too much out of the way. I'm going to let these guys talk about it. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to ask everybody, were any of you born in Jacksonville? A lot of my guests, of all the podcast guests I've had, all 8 of them, none of them were born in Jacksonville. So I wanted to see if any of you were born in Jacksonville. And if not, when did you move here?
I was not born in Jacksonville, and I visited the club from Fernandina Beach.
Actually, I am a native. I was born here in Jacksonville. I'm a Navy brat. So we actually moved away when I was about 9 months old to the West Coast. And I grew up in San Diego, Orange County, and then later Fresno. And then when I was about, 1983, we moved to Jacksonville. I think I was like 15 or so in my 9th grade year. And of course, immediately vaulted into culture shock, but that's how I made it here. So yeah, I'm a native.
I'm not a native. My dad was in the Navy. And we were transferred to and moved to Orange Park in 1985. And eventually my parents were transferred to Japan right after I graduated high school, and I decided to stay.
Makes me the third of the Navy kids here. We also landed in the area, and specifically Orange Park, in 1982. And my dad got out of the Navy while we were here, so stayed all the way up through high school graduation before heading off to college.
Wow, isn't that crazy that almost no one is from here? We have one person out of 12 people that I've interviewed that's actually was born here. So now we're going to get into some fun stuff. How old were you when you went to Einstein, and talk about that first experience? Go ahead, Allison.
I was 21. I was older than most. And I was introduced to Einstein's from some Bowles kids that I worked with. I worked at a restaurant, and these kids were telling me, oh, there's this great club. It's alternative, and you have to go. And I was hooked from the very beginning. I heard songs like Love Cats and New Order's The Perfect Kiss, and I had never heard music like that before, and I loved it. Plus, the club felt like I was hanging out in somebody's basement. So it checked all the boxes for me.
I remember my first time was I think it was like in the winter of 1985. I tagged along with my friends from high school, Mark and Christine Alson. And I had met them through some local shows here in Orange Park. It started with the Three Blind Mice at the Orange Park Lions Club, and then the 730 Club. And then finally, Einstein. Oh my gosh. And I remember exactly what I wore, the shirt, the skirt, and the shoes that I wore. Then after that, it was a group of us in high school that just would carpool out there, and it was a couple of my girlfriends, Shawla, Chamblin, Serena Hyde, and I had to bring my sister. Mm-hmm. But every time was so monumental because we always saw somebody really cool, or the bands, of course, that came through.
And it's important to note that there was no drinking at Einstein A Go-Go. So whatever you had to either sneak in or drink it in the parking lot, right? I mean, that's what we used to do.
Pretty much so, yep.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I think I was 16, and it was probably 1987. I had a study hall with a friend, Mike Elam, and he went to Einstein's. And so he and his friend, Alex, they took me and my best friend, Coleman, out there one night. And we got in and we walked to the back and sat down in a booth. And then they promptly disappeared. And so Coleman and I sat in the back, trying to work up some nerve to go out and dance. And I don't know how long it was, maybe a couple of hours. And it was the end of the night, and we finally went out there and danced. And after that, we were just completely hooked. Sorry about that. And I do remember what I wore. It was what I thought was the coolest thing at the time. It was like a busy paisley long sleeve button up shirt from the Limited. There were some boots that were, not super cool, but had some buckles and stuff. So, yeah.
For me, it was summer of '88, and I would have been 15 then. I'm always in the bit of a music geek, trying to discover new bands, and I guess probably would have been, sometime a few months before I learned about They Might Be Giants. And so that summer, I probably picked up that they were playing out at Einstein a Go-Go, possibly, maybe through a flyer at Wag's Record Hound in Orange Park, and was just determined to go, even though, I guess I didn't have a license or whatnot. So my dad, who, I had the same sort of appreciation for music and music discovery, drove me out there and dropped me off on the block away. And he didn't even go in, but he just knew I loved live music and sent me into there. And sure enough, it was an awesome night. The band was amazing, as They Might Be Giants are, and proved by the number of people we heard from the book that, an all-time favorite there. And I do remember, meeting one of the members, up in the lobby area after and getting an autograph and buying their shirt and stuff. So as a music fan, it was just it was a dream come true to have a place like that. And, I soon after that summer, started meeting people like Jennifer and others at Orange Park who were heading out there regularly, and was catching rides until I could, borrow my parents' car and drive myself.
So that was a pretty good haul from Orange Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, you've got 3 OPers here. We're we're very accustomed to the 45 minutes or so down JTB in the darkness at that time. So
We passed somebody on JTB on the other side of the road going the same direction as us. Like they were on the wrong side of the road coming home from Einstein one time. And we were like, wow. But so anyway, let's talk about it's such a magical place. And I remember my first shows there. Well, I mean, I went there pretty early, so I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I went there right when it first opened to see Horse Child Breakfast and all that stuff. I graduated in '83, so I was, 20, 21, and it was pretty amazing to see those bands. And I could not believe the amount of bands that they would bring in that were just incredible, And so my next question to all of you is, what specific show or shows that really stood out to you when you went to Einstein? Go ahead, Allison.
The standout shows for me are Living Color, Jane's Addiction, and Faith No More. And I was a photographer, and I got to stand side stage. So I was literally like 6 feet away from these people, watching them do their thing. And it was incredible, especially the first time Living Color played. That might be my all-time favorite show. I had never heard funk like that before live, and it was life-changing. It was incredible. Also, most note, Henry Rollins and Jim Carroll are also two standout nights.
Great.
Fetchin' Bones.
Yeah, Fetchin' Bones, amazing.
The
Yeah.
times that I saw them, yes.
D, go ahead. Favorite show?
So I think for me, it's probably going to be a tie between 10,000 Maniacs, because Natalie was, barefoot and she was singing to us all and right there. And she was kind of close to our age. I mean, she seemed like youthful as well, but we were all so enthralled with her. I mean, just how she was just such a beautiful person, and her voice. I do remember that one. And then I'm going to say probably Fetch and Bones, because that was a good, yes. I mean, that was they were one of my favorite bands from back in the time. And then the other one is going to be, oh my goodness. Of course, now I can't, Now Explosion.
Oh,
All I remember is putting my hands in the air and showing my non-underarm hair, So, yeah.
nice.
Yes, that was a funny one, but I really enjoyed them too.
All great bands, all of them.
I think Fetch and Bones was the first show that I saw, and it was fantastic. And every Fetch and Bones show after that was really great too. But in particular, I really loved the Connells. It was an awesome show every time. And I think it was 1989, and I went with some of my friends, and we stood right up front at the stage. And I had my crappy little disc camera, and I was taking pictures of the band. And then Doug McMillan, the singer, came over, and he gestured to give him my camera, and I did. And so he turned it on us, and he took this picture of the group of us right up front, and we're all smiling, and it turned out great. So the next time that they came to town, I brought the camera, and we all stood up front, and he took the camera and he tried to take a picture, and those cameras were so bad it malfunctioned, and so we didn't get the second shot, but we did get the first one, and they were always so fun.
Did that picture make it into the book?
It sure did. It is in the snapshot section, page 224, if you need to look. But
it's an amazing collection of. I've read it like 4 times, and I just kind of pour over it, and it's just an incredible collection. If you don't own the book, go out and buy it, and we're going to talk about where later. So, John, what's your favorite shows? You did mention They Might Be Giants, but anything else that comes to mind?
Well, so yeah, I mean, They Might Be Giants is my first. It certainly will forever be memorable. And, once you see Fetch and Bones, you have to see them again and again and again. So I which was definitely the case for me. And, so those blur together as far as one very, very long Fetch and Bones show. So I'll add to the list, Sonic Youth, seeing probably their last of, I think they did 3 shows there in 88 or 89. That was pretty phenomenal. I mean, the club was entirely packed, as it would be on a night like that to see them. But I probably, ranking probably at the top of my list of memorable nights was seeing Pylon for the first time. I was growing up very much a huge REM fan, and very much into almost any Athens bands, which made Einstein's obviously a great place for me. And so when Pylon, reunited for the stretch they did in the late 80s, they toured in with REM as well. Jennifer and I made a road trip with our friend Chris to Macon, Georgia, to see REM with Pylon opening, but it really meant a lot. I think it was just right around then when Pylon was playing at Einstein's. And just like Jen was describing, being up front and seeing them as close as we could, it was amazing. They had one of their 7 inches at the time. They all signed it afterwards. That might have been the only time while I was at the club that I ever went backstage where they signed that for me. But and then for it to really, for us, when we had our book launch party over Labor Day weekend for the Pylon Reenactment Society, Vanessa to be there and with their current band celebrating with us, along with Hope from Fetch and Bones and her band at Snakes, and Aaron, I should say. That was phenomenal. We couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate a book about Einstein's and to have those 2 acts be a part of the celebration.
Well, I was super lucky to be in attendance. I mean, just to see all the people and recognizing some of the faces of people I didn't even know by name, but I'm like, oh, I remember seeing that guy at Einstein. And then the show, the thing at Native Son where the book release was, and Scott Leuthold played, which was great. And then to later go to, jackrabbits to see those bands play that you're familiar with those members from 30 some years ago is pretty incredible. And for, the energy is still there with these people, which, Fetch and Bones, I remember that band was insane. You could not see that band and not be changed by them for sure. So about the book now, Allison, who originally had the idea for the book, and how did everybody kind of join you or join whoever started the idea?
I want to say in 2009, Dee started the group page on Facebook for Einstein A Go-Go. Anybody wanted to talk about it. And for years, the words book and reunion floated around those message boards. And then in 2014, Dee and I, it was New Year's Eve, and I messaged Dee and I said, if we're going to do a reunion, we need to start planning now. And we had that first reunion, 2014, in August in Jacksonville. I want to say, how many people came out? 400?
Wow.
Or something. It was incredible. And that night, Tammy approached me. Tammy Faircloth, being one of the owners of the club, approached me and said, I want to do a book. I would like to do some kind of book. Can you do that? And like an idiot, I said, yeah, sure I can. And we tried, and I didn't know where to start. I want to say I made 3 attempts to start, and I just didn't know what to do. Outside of gathering all of the photographs and memorabilia, I didn't know what to do. And then COVID hit, and I had a lot of downtime. And I used that downtime to figure out what to do next. And Dee came on as layout. And it was funny, we were interviewing John as a club kid, but it turned out John was interviewing us. And then he recommended himself for the book. And we said, sure, given that he was a professor of journalism. Yeah. And that he had gone there, and his passion for the project, sure. So, and then 4 years later, we had the book.
That's a long process to get everybody on board. I mean, but I'm glad you guys did it. What was it like getting it to print? Getting all these things gathered. I mean, there must have been just scraps of paper, crummy pictures, torn up flyers, I guess maybe you and Dee can kind of answer this since she was in layout. I don't know.
Yes. So, I mean, at that point, where we finally got us all together, and all together meant being on Zoom in the early pandemic, we started outlining, what we thought the book was going to be like, making decisions about, how do we organize it overall? That's where Allison mentioned, where do you start? This club has so much to it, from the live bands to the people who walk through the door to, the family itself. I mean, so many stories to tell. So really just trying to figure out that, how we were going to organize the book was a big step forward for us. And, we did take, a considerable amount of time of on and off, and I say the on and off being that, this was a side project for us. We all have jobs and lives. So it was a matter of, sort of regularly scheduling our meetings and sort of keeping at it. And there were lulls as, we got busy with other things for sure. But, we started pulling from, what we were seeing on our Facebook group. There's more than 3,000 people there saying, contributing to the conversations and sharing their memories, to just trying to find, particular photographers, to finding the musicians and how to contact them through their publicist, or even, directly to line up the interviews. So it was, it was a little bit of a long haul kind of effort, but it seemed like, with each push, we were getting a little bit further along to having the book close to publish. And
this whole time, while we're in the midst of, how we're going to lay this out, and just getting organized, because we went through, I would say a couple, iterations of how we wanted it to move forward. And I think it was like last year, we were all, I think it was John and Allison and I was like, you guys, I'm done. I cannot put anything else out. And I think a lot of it was that I was like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know, I was blocked and I didn't know where else to go. And, it was really good timing. And so basically I didn't quit. I didn't leave. I was still there, but I kind of went and was very busy with work. And John was very helpful, because I'm going to make this. Yeah. This is your spot, John.
Well, Jennifer and I are longtime friends from our OP days. We're in the same cars going from Orange Park to Einstein's on many weekends, and Jen has extensive experience in the design and publishing world, having been the main designer for Jacksonville magazine for a couple of decades. And I just knew that not only was she have the many talents that she has on the design side, that she had the love for Einstein's, and so I proposed the idea. I don't know. I guess I was convincing enough, because she did sign on, and she, Dee had and Allison and I had sort of come up with sort of the framework of the book, and some initial design aesthetics for at least the opening parts of the book. And Jennifer, to her credit, took it from there, and masterfully went in and started organizing and adding a lot of design touches that really speak to what the club was like. And we're all extremely proud of how it came out, but a lot of it has to do with the design that Jennifer put in there.
And Jen, can you talk about the process of obtaining these photos and stories and formatting and all these other things? I mean, now we live in a digital world, but back then this stuff was all pulled from hard copies. So I'm sure you had to scan, and resolution issues and everything else, I'm sure, correct?
Oh, yeah. Lots of issues there. So yeah, I was pulled in for the last year, and they did have a pretty good framework going. And we had all of these photos from Allison and from Jim Leatherman and a ton of flyers. So they had already amassed a great deal of a collection and put in the book, kind of where they wanted a lot of them. So when I got it, I wanted to flesh it out and finish the chapters that weren't finished and add to it. At first, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, so I was pretty careful. But they seemed to respect what I was doing, and I thought we should have more 90s in the book, and but it is really hard to get some of this memorabilia. Lots of people have thrown away, or they've just lost all of their stuff. And then the problem with the cameras from back then, because our snapshots are pretty much terrible. So when you did get a photo, you could scan it high res, but unless it was, Allison's were professional or really nice, but you were never going to get out of it detail that wasn't there.
But I think that added to the sort of the gritty feel of the book. It sort of has this sort of pasted up flyers upon flyers kind of look that I really, really love, and if it were all this slick, like a coffee table book, which I guess it sort of is, but it wouldn't have that same feeling. So I think it really helps capture, it's like a time capsule. Yeah, things probably were a little bit blurry back then, so. And you talked about your disc camera. I had one of those, and the negatives are like the size of a Tic Tac, it's like you can't get any resolution out of that. So that's how you overcame that. I did. So you guys on Facebook asked for stories and things like that, and I sent in a story and a picture of my band that was certainly unknown titled, our band was 1 Minute Father. No one ever heard of us. We never went anywhere. We played Einstein maybe once. And you gave me a full page in the book, which is crazy. But I guess that sort of speaks to the inclusion of Einstein and again, capturing that feel in the book. Dee, what was your idea behind that? You started, you were the one that was collecting these stories, or was everybody sort of doing it?
I think it was just very collaborative. We really maximized our efforts as far as, finding the key players in the books on the social media. And Allison would put a call out, requesting, but, some like pictures and maybe quotes. But that's basically, how it went along. And we just are we wanted just to honor, like your local band. Einstein always wanted to put you guys up where you needed to be and show your talent. Our idea was to honor that. And they had launched so many different bands, and we knew that we had to memorialize and celebrate the bands in the book. And like one of the things, Three Blind Mice, like for example, in Einstein's earliest days, Three Blind Mice was there. They were up on stage. And later they found success. The Mises, Alien Crime Syndicate, but Einstein was like one of the few places in Jacksonville where they could get their start. Like your band, Joe, right?
Incredible. Yeah, no. And I think the funny thing about it, Dee, is that they treated us so well when we went to play another club. We're like, oh, they're going to make us fried chicken and do really good sound and videotape it. And they're like, shut up, stop tuning, get on stage. You got 15 minutes. And I was like, this isn't like Einstein. So I think, and I think that speaks volumes of the Faircloth family in general. I've met I don't know them very well, but from what I've met of them and talked to them, they were in this thing from the get-go to really push live music and make it a community, not just a place to shuffle people in and out, sell booze and sell tickets. They really formed a community. And with that in mind, I want to ask each of you, what do you think the magic of Einstein was? Obviously, the Faircloth family was a big component. Do you think it was the location, the timing? And if each of you would speak to that. Allison, go ahead.
The magic, I think, was inclusion and acceptance. And with all of the interviews we did, some people literally cried remembering this place. I had Vernon Reed, a living color, tell me it was one of my favorite places to play. And how many venues has he played around the world? Okay. So, and other bands said the same thing. So I think it was just, and non-judgment. Come as you are, dance, have a good time, drink some water, have a Coca-Cola. Yeah.
I think for me, like the magic was me walking through the doorway, right there when you get in to Einstein, and right after saying hello to whoever was working the door, and feeling instantly like it was home. And that to me, I needed that when I was a teenager. And the Faircloths and the staff they welcomed us into Einstein with open arms, always. I mean, they were very kind. Yeah, they would get on us about using drugs or, have you been drinking, like in your face, looking at your eyes and everything. But they were always like right there, saying it's okay. Then the magic of dancing to the music, whether it was live or on the turntable, flailing my arms and closing my eyes and just feeling the music and getting into that trance and getting as close to that speaker as possible. So all you hear is, all the time when you get home and barely can sleep. For me, it was a way that I could burn off that teenage angst. And I think that the last thing that came to mind to me was I felt safe and free, and very accepted by my peers, and grown up because I was away from my parents and out of the house. And then I also felt really cool. It was great on the self-esteem. It really was.
Awesome.
You were cool, Dee. You were cool.
You're still cool, Dee.
That's right. Still cool. I think the Faircloth family, they are the magicians. I don't know who else, given the same property and doing the same thing, could have created what they did. It was, if you were all about live music, it was all that for you. If you were only there for social, to dance and hang out with your friends, it was there. They treated everybody well, bands and patrons, and they looked out for us. And they kept it going as long as they could. And we know they never made very much money. And we're all as grateful as we can be. But yeah, I think we owe it all to them.
And echoing all of that was said, and I would totally wholeheartedly agree upon, I guess for me, the magic was, that it brought together so many different people of so many backgrounds, personalities, identities into one spot. I mean, as our book is called, Occupancy 250, it wasn't a very big place for all of us to hang out. But I think the fact that so many different people walked through those doors and were able to hang out, and from different sides of Jacksonville, different schools, the rivalries that exist between schools didn't exist inside the walls of Einstein's. I connected with people that I never would have met otherwise, because, there weren't places like this to hang out, and especially hang out with people who had that same, love of music, love of life, love of each other. And so it really was just this idea that they could bring all these people together under one roof. And, we sort of, well, I appreciate it, but I think almost everyone, even to this day, really, truly appreciated having that there.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, when my band played, Tammy or Terry came up to me and said, "Man, your band is better than a lot of the out-of-town bands we have here." And that totally changed I'm getting emotional now, changed my whole trajectory of my career. Because I never believed my band I thought we sucked, She's like, "No, you guys are good. You need to keep going." And, and from that little nugget, change, and maybe this is hyperbole, but it literally changed the trajectory of my career. Can any of you say that? Do you think Einstein did that?
Definitely. For me, when I went there, I didn't have a camera. I was kind of into photography, but I just realized I am missing out. This is a photographic gold mine bonanza here. So I need to get a camera. And I did. And I got a darkroom. Didn't know anything about concert photography. But Tammy and Terry were like, "Hey, these are good. Keep doing this." And so I did. And it certainly contributed to my musical education. I can talk alternative music all day long if I want to. So that definitely helped shape me there. And just having friends like that, I might tear up. Just having friends like that who, yeah.
I think for me, absolutely, it's helped shape the person who I am today. Because it was my safe haven, because I was an unruly teenager, and my poor mother, my poor family. Since it was my safe haven, they kept me out of trouble. I think that there were a lot of times when, we could have been out there partying. You couldn't drink there. I think the other thing is it helped me learn tolerance. I was teased a lot growing up. I was different, especially, moving from California and going, Orange Park High. I'm Orange Park too. It was a huge culture shock. And so when I finally got to Einstein, I just felt like I was at home. But being around people and feeling accepted, I think that has helped me grow and become the person who I am. Absolutely.
I was a pretty shy kid, and going there helped me feel more confident. I didn't, Orange Park High was a huge school. And of course, there are people that you come across that you really click with, but I didn't, I felt a little weird. And at Einstein's, everybody was weird in some way. So I felt comfortable to dress the way I wanted to. And also, the only live music I'd ever seen was Duran Duran in 1984, which was just a giant, the Coliseum full of screaming young girls. So it was to be there and so close to the bands and to hear all this music that I never would have heard before. Yeah, that changed me forever, and in the best way. So more independence, more confidence.
And for me, the music fan, I mean, like I said, you couldn't have asked for a better place to really, discover and connect with the music that, I love and we all love to this day. I was already, on a path to work in journalism and working for the Orange Park High newspaper and the yearbook and on into college. So I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I always seemed to have more fun and sort of took on the extra assignments when there was a chance to write about music and, up and coming bands and, helping others to discover new music out there. And so Einstein did that for me. And so I guess, a little part of my service to the bigger world was to help, write about these bands that that may have not necessarily gotten attention. And so I had a chance to do that professionally and, then to come into a project as big as this book to sort of discover even new bands in the making of this book and tap back into that has been pretty exciting.
Well, amazing talking about that. The same words kept coming up, like inclusion and acceptance and friends and things like that. So I think the Faircloth created this really amazing community center, that disguised itself as a alternative music club, but it created a really great environment for a lot of people. And I mean, just read the book and you'll see the amount of people that are like, this is my favorite club. This is where I got our start. This is how we got our footing, And I think that's just an incredible thing. And it's not a few rare instances, it's multiple instances of different bands. So that was really cool to read in the book. Most of you have moved out of town. I'm curious, we can start with Allison. Where are you living now and why did you leave Jacksonville?
I live in Washington, Georgia now, and I left Jacksonville in 1991 to become a circus clown. I traveled with the Franson Brothers Circus and the Culpeper Merriweather Circus for about 7 years. And then in 97, I decided that show business sucks. And I went back to school and got a degree in photojournalism.
So you really ran away and joined the circus.
Literally, I did. Yes.
Fantastic. Good one. I can't top that.
Well, I don't know if I can top that, but, after I graduated high school in 1990, I moved to DC from Jacksonville because after high school, I didn't actually go to the college route. I was working minimum wage at Musicland in the Landing and was honestly worried about getting stuck in that, failure to launch phase. Mm-hmm. So I was very lucky to get my foot in the door at the Department of Defense where I began my career. And after DC, I lived in Atlanta, Lexington, and San Francisco. And I returned to Jacksonville in 2004. And basically, I've just been, I haven't been raising children. I've just been living life on life's terms ever since.
I graduated high school and I've been here ever since. I went to UNF. I was moved around as a kid. I was lucky it wasn't as many times as a lot of other people, but I really did not want to leave my friends anymore. I wanted to stay. So, and I'm not a real adventurous person either. So, yeah, so I stayed. And once I discovered Riverside decades ago, I won't live anywhere else in the area, but yeah, so it's home. I didn't need to leave.
I graduated there from Orange Park High and moved on down the road to Gainesville and started my college career at the University of Florida. And worked through the journalism program and was editor of the student newspaper. Met a whole bunch of Gainesville musicians, met people from Einstein's who were also had relocated to Gainesville there. And that launched into a journalism career, working for some newspapers in South Carolina and eventually the Palm Beach Post in South Florida. And then almost a couple decades ago, hard to believe to say, I got an opportunity to teach at Syracuse University at the Newhouse School of Public Communications, and been there ever since and love it. It was, even though I had to give up sunny Florida for snow and blizzards and all that, it's turned out to be a really good move. And I will say, since I never returned to Jacksonville, I do appreciate going back, and I'm so thankful Jennifer's there because she's like someone I know I'll be able to see and hang out with and stuff, and will bring me up to speed as to what I missed. But I do. There are days I long for it for the nostalgia reasons, and seem to have a good time the days I do get to spend there.
This book was a labor of love. Any ideas to do another book or any projects on your own individually? I know some of you are photographers and journalists and things like that. We'll start with Allison. Anything in the works for you?
Through the course of this one, I've said a couple times we should write a book about the beggar weeds, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Next, will be, now that I know how to self-publish a book, I am going to self-publish my adventure novel called Friendship Forged. It is a straight up medieval adventure, no magic, no dragons, no elves, just people solving their problems with sword fighting.
That sounds great. Well, I have some inside information on the beggar weeds if you want to poll me when that book comes up. Okay, I can give you some dirty stuff there.
Okay.
Dee, what do you got in the works?
You know what? We're empty nesters now, and with the book out, I think I'm going to enjoy some vacation time. I haven't taken any vacation, just took 1 week last week. And, we're going to go look for land somewhere, and, I'll be retiring in 10 years. Or maybe 20 or 30, I don't know. But I don't see any individual projects at this time, but if this group, because I love this team of people here, is wanting, or if they want to do something, I'm along for the ride. So.
And Jen?
Publication design has been my whole career pretty much. So I'm definitely on the lookout for more books or magazines or whatever. I would love to do that, and I would love to make money doing that as well. This has been an amazing. Oh,
Do you still work with Jacksonville Magazine?
no, I don't.
Okay.
And that's an off-air discussion.
We're not going into it.
But I've had a chance since then to work at a company that also did magazines and books, and that's where I learned to work on a book. They mostly did cookbooks, but it gave me a solid start in being able to help guide this process and get us all the way to a printed page.
Great. And John, are you still a journalist now? You still work?
Well, I'm more a professor than journalist now. I'm shaping and molding future journalists here at the Newhouse School. So, I have my hands in lots of different projects, often around my schoolwork. You already described this as this labor of love, and so this was my big distraction for the past few years. And when I didn't really want to work as hard as I do at work, I'd sort of immerse myself in this project. And I do have the benefit where my summers, I have a lot more flexibility. So this past summer was really what helped sort of push us toward a publication and everything when I finally just put my mind to it. Well, this group is still in the process of, marketing and promoting the book and selling copies. I see that in our near future. It has been interesting. We've been approached by, music fans, ones who had clubs like Einstein's, have dreams of writing their own book one day about their club and their community. And so, I don't know that EAGG Press will be the publisher of these, but I think we can feel good that we've maybe even inspired some other books that may one day appear on bookshelves and in people's homes.
That's awesome. So what events are lined up? I know you guys just did the record fair here in Jacksonville at Myrtle Beach Brewing, right? And is there anything like that lined up? And I really would hope there'd be a concert. Maybe that's not for you to talk about. Maybe that's Tammy's thing, but just curious what you guys got lined up.
I'll start and just say that, we now, we had our launch party on Labor Day weekend. And so since then we've been, selling copies of the books online through Amazon, as well as sort of direct orders. Our duo of Jennifer and Dee are our Jacksonville distributors, and Allison's even put some books into some stores up in Athens. So we're mostly in the process of just trying to get them into stores, which we now are in a half a dozen in the Jacksonville and Athens area. We're looking at places like Gainesville and maybe St. Augustine to get them in there more. Event-wise, we don't have anything on our schedule, though we were just brainstorming the other night about some possible marketplace kind of things or events that could come up, and that would also possibly entail next year being the 40th anniversary of the club's opening, a bigger celebration that we would hopefully be a part of, or I'm sure we will be a part of. But as you mentioned, Tammy Faircloth is the long keeper of the Einstein's club and spirit. She's probably already brainstorming some ideas for what we might do in the next year or so.
Well, it's fantastic. And I know I keep gushing on about the book, but everybody I hand it to is just amazed at the amount of, at the collection of work you guys put together. It really is a feat. And I need to thank you for that. Preferred outlet. I know it's for sale on Amazon and a few other places. Where would you like people to buy it from? Can we get it directly from, do you have a website or something we can plug for you?
It's occupancy250.com.
Okay. No. And we can buy it directly from there.
Well, you can place a local order, and Dee or I will facilitate getting you that book or books. My house is currently the warehouse, so it comes through here. So that is. It's also really nice to meet the people who are buying it and take pictures, and they all have a story, and they're all just excited about it. But we do have a few really cool places that are carrying it, and it's nice to patronize small business. Both locations, Chamblin's has it, Bruiser Records and Tiger Records, and we're working on getting in some more stores, but those are the ones you can go into now.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. Does anybody want to add anything? Do you think I missed any major clumps or anything about the book?
Well, what about the Occupancy 250, the musical? No,
I just like that. I do have theater experience, so that would be a fun one.
No, that's why I thought I would bring it to you first, Joe.
I think my career is winding down in that aspect, but I have to thank all of you for being here. Allison, Dee, Jen, and John. Such a great conversation. I know it's awkward with this Zoom thing. I wish we could have met at Einstein and done this, but hopefully we'll see each other again. And thanks so much for being on the Popp Rock Shop Poppcast. And go out and buy Occupancy 250, everybody. Do it now.
Popp Rock Shop. We make cool stuff.